is what I think I'll just do on these three. You know, take out state or, Kevin, so we say, not demonstrate.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you wanna, I think you're sure that documents take or.
No, he didn't. I remember Jewel started out by saying. Jewel started out by saying. You. Fundamental thing
Yes.
here is 11.3, which is to prohibit.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We're waiting on one more in-person member and we'll be starting shortly. So thanks for your patience. All right, we'll move back. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. Bernie, I'm gonna hand it over to you to help run tonight's meeting.
Okay. So we've got, can you blow that up at all? My agenda printed.
Thank you.
Thank you for the,
Okay, so this is the administrative, plan commission meeting, regularly scheduled. Go there to the top. We don't have any other business that we take care of in advance of the petition, do we? Under normal circumstances.
there was a refund up there.
Well, I'm hitting the petitions here in just a second. So, VAR 23-13, this is a $208.50 refund request for variance, for that variance. Jackie, you want to go ahead and present?
Me,
Or,
short
yeah,
and sweet, so this is a variance request from a design standard for eco area 318% slope. The petitioner was under contract to purchase the property, and the contract was broken, so the sale is off. The petitioner's withdrawn their application. The variance is not gonna move forward. They had paid for a petition sign. Staff had not done a site visit or done a report, so staff is supporting a $200 even refund that does not include the at cost material and making of some petition sign that's already been out. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't want to jump in front if people have questions, but it seems like we've talked about refunds several times, and since staff is supportive and we've talked about kind of certain things that we should look at of time spent and such, that I would be ready to make a motion.
is there any other discussion or conversation that wants to go along with that? Or against or other points of view? Okay, I think we can make the motion.
In case number VAR 23-13, petitioner Josh Brown, I recommend that we give a refund of $208.50 as requested.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the refund VAR 23-13 for $200. A vote in favor is a vote to approve. Peter Pittsburgh,
Yes.
Brendan Wright Randolph,
Yes.
Edward Olman,
Yes.
Freddie Beatriz,
Yes.
Carol Munson,
Yes.
Julie Thomas,
Yes.
Dee Owens,
No, and my camera won't work. It says the host has got it turned off, FYI.
okay, we'll fix that for you. Okay, so then the motion passes 6-1 for the
Just
refund.
to be a stickler, you might want to just go 5 because Commissioner Thomas couldn't come off video either. And that's one stipulation that they
Okay.
need to be seen and heard
Okay.
for a vote.
Yeah.
Sorry to be a stickler, just for other place.
Okay, we'll fix that, the other fix it, okay,
Okay, yep, it should be good now.
all right.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the CDO work session. Was everybody able to attend their group?
I have to admit that I was not in attendance. I completely slipped my mind.
Okay.
So
I apologize for that.
Okay, that wasn't a roll call for that reason. I was just wanted to just see where.
Trying to call me out, aren't you?
I knew that you weren't there. You're at another trivia bowl.
Oh,
But anyway, okay, so how do you want to handle this, Jackie? Do you want to have Daniel, who's at the construction session, kind of do a review of what they presented or what their takeaways were? Do you want to hear more from the planning commission members?
I'd like to, I created a little PowerPoint, so I'll walk you through kind of the memo that you have in front of you. I bet we got that really late in the day from our consultants. I asked them to do it. And they did it on short time periods, so I will share my screen for anyone in the back that does not have a copy, but. So I did want to just go through a few things, so debrief from the March 23rd focus group meetings. I'm also just going to touch on the public engagement we've done to date and where we want to go from here. And then I want to talk about timelines as well, and then anything else that we want to discuss for the CEDIA work session. So just as a debrief from what we've done so far with module 2, specifically since we laid out the latest version on December 13th, 2022. That's what's on the Monroe CEDIA website. So the draft zoning map and module 2 is online. On that December 13th Plan Commission meeting, we had roughly 14 people in person, another 20 or so online. Staff was also invited to do 2 in-person meetings, one with the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation and one with the Monroe County Apartment Association. And we had roughly 60 people at the BEDC meeting and 50 people at the Apartment Association meeting. And I'm happy to share any of the information and PowerPoint presentations that we gave to those folks. The goal of any engagement that we're doing out in the field or out with the public is similar to whatever you guys hear. It's no new information. It's just presenting that in the frame and the mindset of those groups that are asking us to speak. So if we're going to speak about module 2 to the Apartment Association, I'm not going to talk about strictly commercial. I'm going to talk about more residential uses that we have proposed in the use table. So and then on the focus groups, we had roughly 31 attendees at the economic development, 11 attendees at the environmental review, and 15 at the construction review. So at the bottom of the screen, what you can't see, sorry, is that around total of those numbers of people attending, there's roughly some multiple duplicates, but about 201 people engaged just since December 13th on those meetings, either in person or via Zoom. So in terms of module 2 engagement, we have received some feedback from county residents as well via email that we're reviewing at staff level. And then on the focus groups at March 23rd, I'm asking that Plan Commission review this memo, review the points that are being made, and if you disagree with or want to talk more about some of those points, that's where we need to hear from you so that we can bring that up at a future work session. So I'm going to share the memo just for folks that are online or in the back. So the purpose of the memo was to go through the 3 different groups. So construction review, there were some comments such as creating incentives to encourage more environmentally sound construction materials, re-review parking islands, or maybe another design that could be helpful for landscaping and parking lots. This group specifically walked through an example of a religious facility being built out and what the requirements are for a type of development like that in the county. And so we went through parking, landscaping, grading, things like that. And then economic development, it was more of a high level focus on the proposed zoning map changes. So some of the takeaways and some of the things that were discussed that kept coming up was actually about housing. There was a lot of discussion in the economic development about housing. And some concern for the zoning map changes that we're going to be taking away residential, putting it more into the rural category. So that was what prompted that discussion. But then there was also some discussion about how do we preserve the rural areas, and so we're just trying to summarize what occurred at this meeting, what some of the points were, if you agree or disagree with some of those points. Again, that would be something that we would like to hear from you. And then I'll post this online too as well, since the CDO website, we have posted the Zoom links, we've posted the PowerPoints that we went through with each of the groups, so you can definitely go over those if you're interested in what occurred in the other groups and you don't want to just focus on this memo, but this memo is a nice way of summarizing what occurred. And then our environmental review, there was some support for consolidating eco areas 2 and 3, so we wouldn't be getting rid of any of the eco area, but 3 would just become eco area 2. And that's mainly to streamline the discussion regarding the percent slope review. So countywide is 15% slope, but eco area 3 is 18% slope. So people tend to get somewhat confused about having both an 18% and a 15% slope restriction. So if we can streamline that to become 15 in that area, I think that might make a lot of sense, but we're open to that discussion. And then lot sizes were discussed and possibly creating a new district. Okay, so that is from the perspective of those focus groups. Is there anything in the chat I should be aware of?
Looks like Chris Cockrum has been making some comments.
Okay,
They're not relevant to the meeting though.
okay, Chris, okay, great, we can do that. All right, so next steps on public engagement. So what do we do now? So people have submitted input via the feedback survey, which I have a screenshot of on the right-hand side. Those dots represent people's their satisfaction or dissatisfaction with their proposed zoning. I believe green is like highly satisfied and down to red is highly dissatisfied, and then blue, I think, or gray might be neutral. So yeah, anyways, we have about 110 responses that have been digitized either by staff, if people call in, or if people go online and do it themselves. The original idea was to bring this to a subcommittee of the Plan Commission, the Ordinance Review Committee. And so we did bring this kind of draft idea to the Ordinance Review Committee by area. We were looking at just one section. And the Ordinance Review Committee, one of the questions we posed was, do you want to do this way because the public cannot speak on behalf of their survey? And people want to speak, they want to represent themselves, they want to make their own points about why they should or should not receive a rezone. And, it might be helpful to know if the person submitting the survey is the owner or who they are in relationship to the parcel. So it was discussed that maybe we could take some of these on the road and do some special Plan Commission meetings where it would be an actual hearing where people could speak. And there was a discussion about how we could meet in the county areas to do these meetings. And that they would have to be run similar to our Plan Commission meetings in the Nat Hill Room, meaning it has to be recorded. We have to be able to have people speak. You must be there in person. So it is a big obligation that we're asking for you to set aside additional time each month. So I have some questions in here about timeframes and things like that. So I'll pause here for just a second. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments on special meetings in the county regarding these surveys or other people's feedback about their surveys?
Regarding the meetings in community locations, I think it's a great idea, and I think we should have been doing it a while back, actually. That's right.
I agree. I did have some comments about the first part of this. I'm not sure if there's a time after you get done with your presentation to kind of go back to that part, or is now appropriate, because I don't want to get too far ahead of what we're discussing and then go all the way back to kind
I
of.
have some points about the memo. Why don't you go ahead and bring those up now?
Well, yeah, I felt like the meeting itself, logistically, there was a couple drawbacks, and that's wasn't to be expected with this first one. So I really appreciate your time and effort and everyone's time and effort to host those. Certain things I felt that made the discussion challenging was the fact that you couldn't come off camera. Even if you did raise your hand, I thought that was fine because it kind of kept some order. Not seeing who else was there, I feel like there are people, stakeholders, property owners that don't want to put their cards on the table because, you know, they might be trying to do certain things with their property and they don't know who's listening. And, you know, I feel like that could stifle some of the conversation. Those are some of the key factors. And then I've talked to a couple of people that have joined the discussions. They weren't at the construction review one that I attended. But they just really didn't find it valuable and recommended not having another Zoom type approach, which I'm not necessarily advocating for. I think there's probably a good balance where it could be effective, but we should try this approach and go on the road and do the in-person, I think, and kind of maybe compare and see where the biggest benefit. And then also, I'm just generally curious because we had a structure to the meeting where plan commission members were kind of in attendance and not considered a panelist. And I'm kind of curious if all the other meeting formats kind of had that same continuity. I felt like I reviewed some of them and some other PC members were able to come off of mute pretty willy-nilly. So I felt like they were actually promoted to a panelist, which I think just kind of creates an imbalance of how to do this. If one member is promoted and all the others are in attendance. Initially, I was promoted to panelist, but then I asked what the structure was. I showed up a bit early and they said the goal was to have us in attendance. So I asked to be moved back to attendance. So I had to follow the same proceedings that everyone else did. So I'm not going to ask the question, did that occur? But I want to make the statement that we should handle that with strict, assertive guidance and not allow people to be promoted unless we're doing it with everybody. And then also just with the memo itself, it said 15 people, but I could have swore we asked several times and the max was 6 and 1 was cats and 2 were planners. And it was like, so like, there wasn't 15 people attending.
All attendees. So I got an Excel spreadsheet of the attendees afterwards and those people were in and out.
In and out, yeah, exactly. And I guess the real thing is in the construction, it says it has this denotation of PC for PC members. But in all the other ones, it doesn't, but I reviewed them and there was many comments made by other PC members that I felt like should carry that same PC after the statement. And then also you are asking us what we want to talk about. And the last thing I want is the loudest person in the room to be the only one heard. And I would like to see like a survey launched where we can all rate what we think is important to talk about. So we could have a weighted average from the plan commission of what we think is most significant and not potentially the loudest person in the room saying, this is what I want. Those are my comments.
You could have a survey with ranking.
Yeah, I think that because the last thing I want is just, you know, somebody really pushing 1 or 2 of these when maybe the rest of the plan commission doesn't find it such a huge topic or vice versa. We all find it very important to discuss and someone's like, let's just not cover that. And I think getting some type of survey out there to understand what the consensus is of the group of where these are scored and what, you know, interest we have in expanding that conversation and addressing kind of what comments came from the public during this outreach.
You mean in regards to the memo alone, or are you talking about?
It's just kind of when you were asking, we want to know what you want to talk about. I think you put plenty of bullet points, and if we were just able to put a rating underneath it, like we think this is valuable to continue to discuss. We're neutral, we're not valued. And so we get a weighted understanding of what the plan commission thinks as a whole. And then, of course, we could go to you individually and say, I really think we should talk about that. But, it will at least allow us to compare. Is it just one person that wants to talk about it, that doesn't want to talk about it? Or is it kind of more the consensus of the plan commission? And I think that is a direction we should move, because that brings more of a collaborative effort to here, brings a lot of transparency of what we think as more of a collective group. And I'm not saying we're all going to agree on everything, but the last thing I would like is this gets pushed forward just by one loud voice, because they have a lot of positions, and I rather do this in a very more diplomatic scenario where we're asking everybody to please give us their input.
Sure.
I think one of the things about the format, which again, Drew and Daniel did a great job. We're prepared. The information was very rehearsed. You guys worked great as a team. I like the format where not everybody can just jump in and talk. I thought that was a good format. That way you raised your hand, and if you had something to say, you said it. But the fact that the construction review committee had 15 people with probably cats, 2 plan commission members, 2 staff members. And if people were jumping in and out, I don't know what the content was that they were bringing up. Tracy Lutz, and who was the other person from McDowell? I think those are the 2 people I remember bringing comments. So I think it's a very small representation. I'm not thinking the Zoom format for that, but it's a very small representation.
And we risk that for every public engagement event that.
I understand that. So I think we just need to zero in on that a little bit. I also think that it's hard to separate construction, economic development, and environmental review, because they overlap so much that I thought about sitting in on 2 at the same time. And I thought I could do that because it'll blow the quorum deal out. I didn't, right? But just to listen and just understand what was going on.
I had that very same wish that we've done that.
So I think it's a great I look at this as almost an icebreaker. I don't know how much intelligence we can bring out of it.
That's good. Okay, Julie, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that I was at the environmental group, and we had Tammy did a great job, and I want to thank her for working on that, and really it turned out well. And I think that there was a lot of open time, which was really nice, just to see what folks wanted to raise, and so that was great. There really were some good ideas, and I like the opportunity to not be a panelist and to just ask some questions, which was great for me to be able to do. Just to, are you asking about this or are you asking about that? Just to kind of get some clarification. So I thought it was really well done, and I want to thank everybody, because it sounds like everybody's were really good. I haven't seen them all yet, so thank you.
I would like to say I thought it was well done too, and I was expressing concern, so I should spend ample amount of time of complimenting the efforts as well. So
who's on the economic development?
That was myself and Ann.
And Cheryl, did you have any takeaways?
I listened a lot, and I thought it was a very full presentation. There was a lot of meat there, and so that was my takeaway. There's a lot of elements here, and you can see from the bullets for the economic development. But the biggest takeaway was the concerns about increased housing and the potential for increasing density in areas in order to accommodate that. And I can't help but think that this is not something to apply countywide in terms of increasing density, but maybe with a different type of zoning consideration, and that is proximity to sewers and where they're likely to be expanded. There could be overlays, for example, with that in respect to that. And so we really need to pay attention to infrastructure. And I would say roads as well as sewers. So that's my opinion.
And that's, you know, that's kind of blends into, I think, where I was thinking with the three different categories, which were set up well, but it's hard to separate them. You know, if a great example, we're looking at density, even something as small as a minor subdivision, where when we started the comprehensive plan and we went back to 15, you know, now we're restricting them to only potable sewer systems, you know, city of Bloomington or one of the outlying areas that have treatment facilities. And I, you know, economic development, even at such a small scale, if you permit that, it makes things more affordable for people. And, you know, you're not looking at, you know, the 20-acre parcel we just had a meeting on at Kinzer where you can't subdivide it.
Yes.
You know, I think that to me was a stark reality of, you know, cause and effect. So, you know, I think that we need to maybe find a way to blend them a little bit and because they do rely on each other. I mean, slopes, restricting real estate takes the land away. If you limit the supply, you're going to drive costs up. And what we do here is huge on cost of development, cost of homes, cost of real estate, cost of getting people in houses or apartments or whatever the projects are. So, okay, does anybody, do any other planning commission members have anything to add to the group that they were in? We've heard from all three groups. Dee, did you have anything that you wanted to add to the conversation with respect to the review meetings?
Not so much. I think it's a very good summary and Cheryl's right. And I kept my mouth shut and just listened to people.
We did. We were listening.
I'm sorry.
Cheryl just concurred.
I would agree. It was a time mostly for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't feel appropriate to jump in because I can jump in here and other people can't. I just wanted to listen, and it was helpful to hear. You know, I heard a couple things that I didn't really think about before, so it helped me to grow and understand a little bit more of what people want. And I appreciate that. And did a good job, staff, by the way. Good job.
So just in regards to the meetings on the road, so that's, I think, you know, we've done some in-person components. We've tried to accommodate online attendees. And so now the next question is on the road. We've included a few locations that we think we might be able to have logistically the meetings that we would be required to have, which is recorded, audible, able to speak, enough capacity or size. We haven't contacted these locations yet to see if we would be able to do it, but just some ideas, and we put the map, the dot voting map up there as well, so you can kind of see the density of those, you know, applications or those surveys in regards to the density of locations that we could choose from if we want to have more meetings in certain areas and then less meetings in other areas where there might not be as many attendees. There's ways to think through it. And I'll just remind everyone that we did do on the road meetings in 2021. We did those park shelter meetings. We did them in Flatwoods, Danny Smith Park, Smithville Diamonds, I think got canceled due to, was it raining or, yeah, I think we maybe got rained out or no attendees. And then Cards Farm Park was the other one that we did. So we have kind of we've done this in the past with a similar goal of capturing the different townships. So we think we can pretty successfully do that. There was a question of, do we do a meeting per township or can we consolidate some of those? So I do have some logistics questions for you. in regards to the timing and number of meetings. Where, you know, we'll have to record the audio. And then a question of whether we can move anything forward while we're waiting on these meetings to proceed. So I'll go to the questions and then come back to the time frame. So the question I have for you all is what if we're in agreement that we want to have these meetings on the road? What's the time frame for start to finish for these meetings?
I have a question. Will these meetings include other plan commission business other than the CEO?
Probably not. The idea was, we could take on some of the admin meetings and move those to be on the road. But that may delay the time frame if you want to have several meetings and those are only once a month. So it wouldn't include any other business, so we'll see.
Wouldn't include any other business. So these are additional meetings.
Additional meetings.
And probably, oops,
Go ahead.
and evening meetings or
And these, they have to be evening.
That's in the evening.
Is there any timeline that is ideal for you planning?
For staff.
Yeah.
I think we want to hear kind of what you guys are thinking. We wouldn't be able to start these, I don't think, for 2 months or so, just to set up logistically, contact the venues. So, yeah, I mean, the time frame more of a question of like, once we are able to schedule the first one, how quickly do you want all of them to get done?
My schedule's a bit more flexible since I'm full time at the county, so I'll leave it to everyone else, but
Yeah.
you know, I think once every other week or once a week, just to depending on how many locations and trying to get it done within a 60-90 day time frame,
Okay,
you
so
know.
faster than once a month, but maybe twice a month.
Mhm.
Okay,
And we still have to do our regular business, so that's like 4 meetings. If we did do 2 of them a month.
we already have probably about 5 or 6 regularly scheduled meetings a month, so.
So can you put that map back up there again so we can
Sure.
look at the possibility of how many there might be? We need 2,
And
3,
maybe,
4.
you
I
know,
think we need 6.
you think 6, okay,
So if we did 2 a month and regular business, that would still be 3 months to conduct all of these. And then I know that you would want some time to compile all the information, so we're looking at 4 months after starting the rollout, and it sounds like maybe July, so we're getting.
6 months from now till you're actually done with everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
if you did 1 a month. you know.
no, 2 a month, 2 a month.
Oh, you're saying 6 meetings total,
6 meetings total, two a month. That means you would need 3 months of just meeting time. You need a month at the end to compile your stuff and
Yeah.
2 months at the beginning to get everything situated.
yes.
So then I wonder if, depending on, it probably has. A factor would be the weight of the petition looking forward, but could we utilize the administrative meeting? For any of these meetings?
That's what I was hoping to do.
Yeah, we could do the once a month take over the administrative meetings. There's no legal requirement that we host these administrative meetings. It's just to help prep you guys for the regular meeting. But if you guys,
I think it's good to show the public what we do and
yeah,
Well, my concern is that these administrative meetings already take an hour, hour and a half, sometimes more. And now you're wanting to set aside an hour, you want at least give the public an hour worth of time.
links.
Preferably an hour and a half. So there you're talking about a 3-hour meeting. And if you're asking the public to sit in on an hour and a half of this.
we probably would cut this.
Yeah. Oh, you would. Carol's saying it would be nice to have some of that included, but I think that we would, that's why I'm wondering what the burden of the petitions maybe looking forward would
Okay.
be. And if we'd be missing these, the 3 petitions we've got in front of us. Would that hold up our processing of petitions? But I think we should utilize the administrative meeting for at least a couple of these.
Okay,
Let's see how it goes.
See how it goes.
I agree. If we're substituting the time slots, I thought we were talking about
I think
adding them together.
what you would be doing under this one extra special meeting a month.
Yeah,
That's
well, but where we'd be substituting the time slot, like today's time slot would be
one special
a
meeting,
special meeting, but we would not be still doing today's planned
correct?
itinerary,
We wouldn't
so,
have to,
yeah.
Unless you could at the end just say other questions, you know. I don't know that staff, I mean, it would be nice if staff did not also have to do the admin packet on top of organizing some of these meetings, if they were gonna be taken over. So,
I don't think that the admin packet would be needed, but I think it would be at least beneficial if we do that. To when the packet comes out before the public meeting. To maybe have like an office hours available from you guys. I know you guys have always been very open to asking questions and stuff, but.
Yeah.
If you'd say, hey, packet rolled out on. Meetings next Tuesday, on Friday, we're gonna be hanging out from noon to 2, come in and ask questions.
Okay.
There are times where it might be beneficial to ask you guys questions.
okay. You want to break it?
Julie Thomas has her hand raised.
Oh, thanks. Julie, did you want to mention?
Yeah, I think this sounds, yeah, 2 a month. I don't know that if we need 6, but let's get them done before, before the end of summer and not delay things. And it's so important to do this that it's okay to not have admin meetings for a few months. So I think it's worth it.
Okay.
100% agree.
And really, I think these meetings, other than just like getting them set up logistically, our plan goal would be to advertise these just to say, please come to speak about your property. We may suggest sort of a geographical boundary of like, this meeting is really meant for this area. Just to make it make sense. But if people show up, at Clear Creek Elementary and they're from Bean Blossom, we're not gonna say like, can't speak, but I think it helps with the environment of just like what people are talking about, maybe would be more relevant geographically sometimes than, other times. So we might, similar to the shelter meetings, kind of put out a map to say this would be helpful for people in these areas, kind of highlight like these are the locations we'll be talking about, if that's amenable. Dee, did you have a question?
I did. As I listen to this and I look at the county, I think the county could be cut into quarters and 4 meetings would be enough. I don't know why we need to have a lot more. It's, what's the county, 30 miles across, up and down, east and west. So I don't think I think 4 meetings would not be as onerous for staff and for us and would be plenty for the public.
Yes. Okay, so maybe a call for fewer meetings. So just a kind of a hand raise in the room, and then also Julie, do you who's on board with 4 meetings and? Okay, 4 meetings.
That's fine.
I think 4 meetings would.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so we could do 4. All right. Thank you.
I think you could easily paint the corners based on that map you just had up there. You could easily paint the corners and.
Yeah, and we'll kind of go through those venues that we pointed out as just options, and if there's other options that work out too, we'll include those. John, did you have a point that you?
I did, because we talked about this at the ORC of how maybe we could kind of split the county into kind of sectors. And I was like, well, there's already districts and other things out there that we could maybe look at. And I was just looking at the commissioner districts, but the map is kind of a little more. There's one district that's really just one township, so I don't know if that would really be a great approach, but
Yeah,
my thought is there's representation. I mean, the commissioners represent the whole county, but there are 3 districts, and it's something that's already out there, so we don't have to necessarily recreate how divide it into three.
I think each board is just kind of split in the middle.
Isn't there four?
There are four
Four
council,
council
four
districts.
council
So
districts.
there's council districts, and that means they have representation too. So it's just a consideration for you. I think you're moving great, but we had this discussion and I thought about it, so I just wanted to suggest that
Hey,
we
what do you got?
already have districts out there.
Okay.
So
What do you got, Dee?
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons that I said 4 and having fewer is not so much to go along with political boundaries. The average person doesn't really know what those are. We do, but they don't. And as we go into the summertime, it's a heavy vacation period and people will likely come around their schedules, not around vacation.
right.
Okay. So 4 meetings, okay, and maybe just leave it up to the people that can attend their schedule. Okay.
Kind of what Dee just mentioned, is the thought that I had was just when you start saying, hey, if you live in Bean Blossom, go to the one in Ellisville, not the one in by the lake, you know, you try to start zeroing in on availability and
Okay.
maybe they have sports games and stuff. On that same note, though, is there gonna be a sign in or roll call or anything for these? Because I don't know if you necessarily wanna like say no to double attendance, but I think it needs to be noted if somebody attends multiple. Because if they're sharing the same commentary or having the same viewpoints at all 4 of the meetings, you're weighing the scale based on one person's opinion, so.
Okay. Okay. So, you know,
The side comment there.
4 meetings, whatever fits your schedule, wherever you're coming from in the county or, you know, out of the county owned property. Okay, I think that's good feedback. And then module 3 is going to be the design standards, parking, landscaping. So as we're talking about timeline, so module 2 has been out there. We've gotten some reviews. Did these public engagement virtually. Certainly, there's going to be continuous feedback that we get all the way until the end. But to keep this rolling, keep this moving, we're wondering if we can get you sort of a better draft of module 2, possibly by the end of June or maybe July period, to get you guys a cleaned up copy of what's online now. And if you would be interested in voting to proceed with module 3, even while these on the road meetings are going on. So on the road meetings are, I think, going to be focused heavily on the draft zoning map, which really is connected to the text, but is also in some ways disconnected, because you can change a draft zoning map and not change the text. So I don't know if you guys feel that they're in some ways able to be moved forward separately, or if we want us to halt on module 2 until we have these public meetings. Go ahead, Jerry.
I like the idea of getting module 2 in the pipeline to us. As far as the hearings out in the county, we could simply make a statement that the meeting is specifically direct comments and concerns toward the zoning map, and any comments or questions regarding the zoning text should be submitted in writing or via making an appointment with a staff member.
I think that's,
Because I think discussing the verbiage in a public meeting is kind of like playing Russian roulette with 5 chambers stuff.
Okay, so stick to what your satisfaction is of the zoning, and if they bring in points of the text to say, the reason I want to be this zone is because the text.
But to the extent that the text supports the map
Okay,
and the map illustrates the text,
okay,
those 2 things are inseparable. But as far as extended commentary on the writing of the ordinance, that's like an elephant is a horse designed by committee, so we've got enough people throwing in on that without
okay.
making a public conversation of it.
I want to recognize Julie has her hand raised.
Yeah, I think we need to keep moving forward with other aspects of the CDO.
Okay.
So I would recommend we move forward with that and then still get comment on the previous.
Okay, and I think maybe for the purposes of those on the road meetings, keeping it to the zoning map, use table, maybe even expanding it to definitions, sort of like we have done. I know it's part of module 3 to get the development or design standards out, like lot sizes. But I feel like we might save some time to have those rolled out before we have those on the road meetings. So we have those pretty well drafted. It's just a matter of it's out of schedule, and we're trying to work on the other things that are part of the module 2. But yeah, what's your?
Okay. Number one, with the on the road meetings, I would advertise them as meetings for the purpose of discussing the proposed zoning maps and what'd you say, use table?
Yeah.
You know, and that way, people who show up know that that's what we're there to talk about. Anything ancillary to that's going to come up in their conversation anyway. And with the design portion, I think it might be worthy of consideration to think about getting some stakeholder input on that from a particular stakeholder group formed by staff and plan commission members to identify the people who are most impacted and most readily available to discuss that in an intelligent fashion.
Specific to design standards, and you mean lot sizes, or do you mean like parking, landscaping, signs?
Maybe all of them,
Okay.
but you know, what I'm thinking of is common petitioners that we have seen on multiple occasions. People involved in surveying, people involved in you know, the designs that are submitted by private organizations. You know, their input could prove to be really valuable if we try to get that in the morass of public comment is counterproductive and will be drowned out by the noise.
Well, I think too, and I've got some comments I want to give you from the review, the construction review, that, you know, out of those discussions, we're going to be able to understand why we're looking at 15 and 18% slope restrictions. Why can't we utilize terrain topography and construction techniques in order to make things better without being prohibitive? We are.
I'd also like to hear from the ag on those things.
So there's ways I think we can receive feedback from different groups. I know in the past we, you know, I think that we get some questions just via staff. I know I've gotten them about like, well, why do you let these people comment this way and I have to do this to comment this way? I don't want there to be any barriers. I want there to be a low barrier approach to any of it, but I also get that, like, you know, I'm gonna send someone to the, you know, a karst ordinance that's from the karst, you know, conservancy, or, you know, people that really know what they're talking about, or, you know, vice versa. We can do that with other topics of the ordinance. So I just want to be mindful. We have to keep it low barrier for everyone to comment. John, go ahead.
I guess. I'm not following the best, but from the comments, Jared, from you two, are you saying that we should hold off before moving forward with module 3, or these are things that you're talking about doing parallel? Okay, well, and then my question for you is kind of the same earlier, is what is planning's take? Where, I mean, if we're talking about going on the road with the zoning map, you know, engaging with the public, hosting those meetings, also doing our normal business with the planning commission, and then also the planning department doing their day-to-day business with new petitioners or what have you not. Are we not overloading you with work to move these parallel? And I think that is something we should really know
Yeah.
and as straightforward as possible, because if that's what's going on, we should slow down a bit and do this with a lot of patience and sensitivity to what decisions we're making, because we talk about this being a fluent document somewhat, and we want to do it every 5 years, but that's not what I've seen. That's not my observation. And I think this could really be something that moves the county forward for 10 years. And there's no reason to get in a hurry, especially if we're asking too much from planning.
I think 4 meetings is reasonable. If we can get those to align the best we can with administrative meetings, that would be ideal. You know, the timing would be probably for us, probably better mid to late summer. Just knowing staffing limitations. But that, I think if you guys are willing to move forward with module 3, we can juggle a few things at once. We can, you know, I don't think it'd be confusing either to get more information out of module 3 while we're still doing on the road meetings. I just don't want to give the impression or have you guys think that we're kind of moving forward without, you know, we're just doing this to check a box. Like, we want to do effective public engagement. A lot of time for us, and every single thing we do, we try to do it with intention. So I think if we're going to have these meetings, we want good turnout. We want this to be helpful to you all to make changes, and we want to act on those changes so that when we get to the end and we're actually adopting this document, people can come forward and say, my concerns still haven't been addressed, or the people that have had their concerns addressed, it's that much time saved then.
And I want to follow up that I'm going to really kind of be supportive of your recommendations of how much time and workload is going on, and if we're adding too much and how much you can actually juggle. And I'm going to be very supportive of that. So I just need to understand if we're asking for too much. Sorry, Ann.
Please note that my giggle was not in support of, but as I think staff, we all will say, everyone, no, we will all say, this zoning ordinance is outdated, and we would all love to have a new one. So the more that we can get done.
Jared, go ahead.
To what extent we can utilize the consultants on those outer meetings and them making a record of what's shared.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like they should do that. And the second question I have is, are we utilizing interns from SPIA? Because in the past, when we did large projects like this, we had presentations made by SPIA interns, and I haven't seen that happen for quite some time. So I feel like, you know, when we get into these intense periods, we need to make sure we have that relationship where we can get the interns.
You're gonna get a presentation next month.
That was fun.
And I want to make a note, if Edward has to leave, it's 6:45. I do want to kind of summarize and move on to our administrative business. So does anyone else have any further comments or things?
Thank you. Thanks everyone else that has put time and effort into that.
Julie, Dee, did you guys follow that? We're gonna move on.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
Sounds good.
Okay, so is that all you had, Jackie?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. And again, thanks to staff, you did a nice job that put together. So we've got the Wiley Farm of Fieldstone Tract F. This is planned unit development outline amendment 1, PUO 22-2. And this is Mr. Brown.
Thank you. So this was presented at the Plan Commission regular meeting on March 21st. There were a few comments made, and we have compiled some information based on that. First and foremost, we've confirmed that the allowance for the convenience storage would only apply to the 3.34 acre portion shown in Exhibit 3. Second is that I know that it was asked that We show the permitted uses allowed in parcel K, that is in exhibit 5, which is on page 36 of this packet in particular. 36 and 37.
Exhibit 5 is on page 36. Exhibit 5 on page 21.
I think it goes along, a long while. Are you talking about the uses in area K starting?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh. Sorry. I
so
apologize.
area K, yeah, starting on page 36.
Exhibit 8 and
And 37 is the list of uses, so scroll down one more page, I think they actually listed out.
Yep.
So those uses would be allowed just west of the site that we're talking about. There was a question by one of the planning commission members to show what's permitted just on the parcel to the west, and these would be some of the uses permitted there.
so I downloaded one and I might have downloaded the old version, but I have 77 pages in the packet that I have for April 4th today. So
Yes.
this whole section is missing from my packet.
Yes, and you recognize that and you put it in the packet, I believe yesterday, so.
Okay, I'll re-download that. I'm familiar with the case. I just felt completely lost.
Continued and.
Yes.
You wanna-
Okay, no, I'm awake, okay, on Saturday.
Okay. There was some notes about proposed connectivity versus existing required connectivity. That's also in exhibit 3 and exhibit 5. You can, one might be able to compare the two. And staff also reached out to Daniel Butler to inquire about conducting a second neighborhood meeting, including the Summerfield HOA. Daniel Butler reached back to us today, saying that he did not think, after extensive research, that Summerfield had a separate HOA, that it was part of the Fieldstone HOA.
And I don't, is he saying he's not gonna host a second meeting or he's open to the idea?
Can't quite recall.
Okay, I need to get that one.
So who are the people that were there representing the Summerfield HOA? Didn't we have people there that represented the Summerfield group or?
Or they were at Summerfield
There's residents.
residents, not the HOA.
I thought that, I'm with Bernie, I thought there was someone who said they were the president of the HOA for Summerfield.
So that was Phil.
Yeah, they have a website. We need to look into it a little bit more, I
Right.
think. Cause they do have a separate website, but Summerfield is a portion of Fieldstone. So I don't know if they've created sort of their own ad hoc HOA. But that's how we looked it up online to begin with. They have minutes, they have a formal board.
And we did decide that notification requirements were fully met for the public meetings, correct? And
Public notification requirements were met. There
Okay.
was, the neighborhood meeting is within 500 feet of the proposed development site. You have to invite all HOAs. Daniel Butler's point is that he thought Summerfield was under the umbrella of the Fieldstone HOA.
Correct.
And so he said, we have been in contact with the board of the Fieldstone HOA out of courtesy, since no one showed up to the offered meeting, so there was no requirement. We are seeing that another HOA meeting would be needed or helpful, since neighbors in the Fieldstone HOA are attending the public meetings. So we are in contact with them regarding concerns and questions. Let us know if you see another entity or contact for Summerfield HOA that is not under the umbrella of Fieldstone HOA. We would be happy to offer a separate meeting for them. So also the legal description of Fieldstone HOA jurisdiction does encompass the Summerfield neighborhood addition. So that's the response we received today. So it doesn't sound like they're planning a second neighborhood meeting at this point.
hey, did you have anything else to share with us, Daniel? Update us with the packet, what you learned since our plan commission meeting and follow up on questions that people had regarding this.
Not at this time. That's really all the additional information we have. The drainage board meeting is meeting tomorrow morning. And so we're going to be definitely gonna be bringing up this petition there.
Hey, Julie, do you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you so much. I think we need to be very clear with Mr. Butler about whether or not we're asking him to have another meeting with the HOA. And I would lean toward yes, because it is more common for people who are members of an HOA to attend an HOA meeting than it is to come to attend a plan commission meeting. So I would ask that we ask him to have that additional meeting, but that's me and I don't know what others think. So I think we just need some clarity on that.
I agree. Clear direction would be most helpful in this case because they seem like they're trying, but they, are hitting some uncertainty. And I'm curious if Mr. Butler is on the call, just for our own understanding. So if we know he's hearing our conversation.
I believe he is.
Okay. I know we don't bring the public into this, but he's kind of a petitioner representative.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So
Julie, are you done? Can we get Daniel's input on this?
Yeah, I just want clarity. I think he
Yeah.
deserves that. And I think Dee has a question too.
Okay.
Daniel, don't promote.
Dee, I'll hold off until
Allowed to talk.
Daniel is done answering Julie's question. Is that okay?
Okey doke.
No, don't promote the panelists, just say.
the larger one, that's not allowed to talk right now.
Yeah. Okay,
Might want to prompt them.
Daniel, you're on.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks for, we just did some research in regards to it, the HOA. There may be a Summerfield separate arm that had branched off at some point to form their own HOA, but the research that we did legally, they're all under the umbrella of the Fieldstone HOA still. It's a little confusing. The last time we tried to have a neighborhood meeting, they knew we were having it. We asked them to make sure everybody was going to be there and no one came. So we're happy to offer it again, but I am a little bit afraid that no one may show up. And everyone that's of interest at this time is aware of the public meetings. So that would be my only input here.
Dee, have you got something to add to that?
Kind of, sort of. I agree with Julie. I think there should be another meeting because the people who came forward last time and said, what the fellow said he was the president, and they acted like they didn't even know about such a meeting. And so I'm thinking that it's possible that maybe the Fieldstone president heard about it and it didn't make it to the other people. In any case, I think it's important that they are specifically so that we know that they specifically had the opportunity to speak and they did or they did not.
So the question would be, the neighborhood meeting is a requirement of the Plan Unit Development Ordinance, correct? So they had that meeting, so I don't know, Dave, can we require them to have another neighborhood meeting, or can we just strongly suggest it?
I think you can strongly suggest.
Yeah, but we can't require them to have a meeting if they've met it, yeah. So Daniel, I think are you on? I think what the planning commission is suggesting is that you go ahead and set up another meeting and make the invitation. This board can't require you to have a second meeting. So I think we'll just leave it at that.
I agree, and I just want to add something to some of the discussion at the last regular meeting that when I wasn't questioning, whenever there was a question and answering with the Fieldstone HOA person, it was brought up the fact that they didn't really disclose the fact that this necessarily was a PUD and there's already a full approved construction development kind of thing going on there. And I think that this is a good chance to get feedback with that full kind of understanding of what is currently allowed and, what they're asking to be allowed to do. And I think that would be very beneficial. And I think that gives the petitioner a better full-on discussion. So I think there's benefit for them to have that discussion, because if I'm going in there not understanding that it's a PUD and they're already approved to do certain types of things on the property, and I'm not aware of that, and I just don't want to see storage units happen, of course, I'm gonna be like, oh, I don't want to see the storage units. And I'm still indecisive on this one, but I'm just strongly advocating that they consider it, and then they can have a more holistic conversation that can like cover everything. So.
Daniel, if you can still hear us,
Makes sense.
Mr. Schilling found on the Secretary of State website that Summerfield is incorporated as a homeowners association. So can he send that link to you? Then
Yeah.
Jackie will send you a link with that information, and it's got the individual's name who was in charge of it at the time of that filing. And they have to refile every 2 years as a business entity. So there's probably some fairly regular history on that. Whether they do or not, it's a different story.
They have the most up to date, because the bank report is up this past December.
So if that's the case, then it would be a requirement to reset the meeting if it wasn't done with the requirements in the ordinance filing. So within 500 feet, all the ways be invited. So the Summerfield is within 500 feet, Daniel, so you'd have to have that meeting again, so.
Okay, Daniel, will get with you on that and keep that ball rolling to make sure that the petitioner's meeting the requirements. Are you copying all that, Daniel Butler?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you saying that if we hold another meeting, are we being delayed on Plan Commission's recommendation?
I think we can work with you on that, Daniel, if you were able to get that meeting scheduled. We would keep you on the agenda, but I can't speak for what the Plan Commission might choose to vote. They may continue you until they hear from that meeting. So the sooner you can get that scheduled, the better.
But from what Jackie's saying, Daniel, it may not be that the public meeting the meeting requirements with the adjacent homeowners associations were met. So that's why I think that once planning, Daniel, gets with you, then you can sort that out and make sure that we're all understanding what the requirements are if your first meeting fulfill those obligations.
Okay, that'll be fine.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We can stop your share. So moving on to the next case. Okay, yeah, I'm good. I stopped. So I know we've got about 5 more minutes before we possibly break quorum, so I'll do these quickly. So the Lake Lemon Marina rezone from limited business to limited business. The request is to remove the condition of approval for a shared driveway. So this was a ordinance that was passed in 2007 with the following conditions of approval. They want to remove condition number 1, which is access to proposed lots be provided by an ingress egress easement at the existing petition site entrance or via an easement from another driveway cut. No new driveway cuts shall be allowed on the East North Shore Drive. The circle that we have on this map here is showing you where there was a driveway that was issued a driveway permit by our highway department prior. It was in error, and so the goal would be to have that driveway be shared with the easement to the east that connects to the marina. So the highway department is still in support of having them share the driveway instead of keeping that separate entrance. And so that would be the recommendation. The recommendation from staff is that we would align with our highway department, and we do not recommend approval of the rezone. The petitioner I know has submitted additional information regarding exhibit 10 and exhibit 11 in the packet, the presentation and site photos. And I know they'll be interested to speak to the Plan Commission at the regular meeting. This was heard at the Plan Review Committee on March 9th. And we just discussed some of the history and asked that we include any driveway permits that were issued. So that is exhibit 5, what we issued in November of 2016. So are there any questions on this one? It's not truly a rezone in the sense of uses, it's a rezone in the sense of getting rid of one of the conditions, and the only way to do that is to take it up to the commissioners.
Just to be clear, this driveway permit was issued in 16, so that driveway has been there for 7 years now, and it's
Roughly, I don't know if they put it in exactly that year, but it's been there for some time, yes.
5 more years, 5 to 7 years.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question that kind of goes in line maybe a little bit with Mr. Edwards. I'll be your last name, trust me. I just don't want to butcher it here. Is this really a negative recommendation just due to the fact that you're following kind of the guiding documents that came before this? I guess, is there a very justifiable reason why planning is suggesting a negative recommendation outside of, you know, agreeing with the highway department, but then the highway department issued the driveway permit, so they must have been comfortable with certain issues like line of sight things. So is this really just due to the fact that this was a condition prior and staff just wants to keep the conditions intact?
So we do have highway comments on page 96. It does say North Shore Drive is classified as minor collector with an average daily travel of 534 due to the hill and curve to the west, requires site distance of 335 feet and the driveway spacing requirement of 150 feet of Monroe County Code 755. It cannot be obtained. So I recommend the condition of approval of North Shore subdivision to share the existing driveway entrance remain. And so we could talk to Ben a bit, and you see the petitioner's response as well. As to why the original driveway was issued. Sometimes we can't, my understanding is we can't follow that exactly if they don't have any other access point. But if, I don't think Ben is on tonight, but I believe if you wanted to hear from Lisa, she is on the Zoom call. And can also be in attendance at the regular meeting if there's other questions.
No, and I think you did a great job of addressing my question.
Okay.
There wasn't a clear yes or no kind of thing, but it's hard.
Okay.
And the real thing is what practical issues are going on now that didn't exist, over the last, half a dozen years of
Sure.
this being in place. And that's really what my concern is here. And I typically support highways recommendations. And I would like to hear maybe from Ben Ayers at the following meeting of what issue are we really resolving here outside of just certain compliances.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lisa, did you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I can have Ben at the meeting. I'm sure that's not an issue. I did want to add too that I believe there was another driveway permit in 2018 for the residents. And it was required for the driveway to be removed at that time also and was ignored.
Okay.
And I know that I believe that it was stated that it was an error back in 2016. And if that was the case, then yeah, we can admit our fault. But if you're an inspector out in the field, sometimes you don't see these conditions to these subdivisions that are passed in a plan commission. And I hope with OpenGov now that we don't run into those issues anymore. I think it's helped us to move forward and not have these type of errors out in the field.
Thanks, Lisa, for your comments.
So do we want to talk quickly about the last item?
Yes.
Okay, so that is the Zykes Road minor subdivision. The reason this is going to the plan commission is that there are waiver requests. There's a waiver request for sidewalk. So this is a location on South Zykes Road. And the location to get to the site map here. So they're wanting to do a 4-lot subdivision. And they are in the designated community location. So they would technically have to put sidewalks along Sykes Road. As you can tell, it's a very narrow road through here. And so we looked at the transportation plan, and this is not identified as a high priority or even a moderate priority location for a trail. There's actually an easement to the east of this property that would be part of the transportation alternatives recommendation. So on the screen in the yellows, rectangle is the petition site, and the red is the greenway trail that we've been working on getting up this score. So our recommendation is approval. Because of the sidewalk waiver being the only waiver request, everything else does meet. Our MS4 coordinator has taken a look at this property in depth because of the number of sinkholes on the site. And we're adding a lot of drainage easements, discrepancy areas. It's a fairly large site to begin with. Each of the lots are over 20 acres in size.
Is this an action item tonight?
This is not just a FYI, it's a
Morning, or state the plat committee, we actually were in favor of this at the plat committee, but since they had the sidewalk waiver, it moves here. So if they weren't asking for that waiver, we would have approved it at the plat committee level. So
yeah.
I just wanted to add that. And then for Sean's sake, is that supposed to say plat committee still right there? Or should we update that page to say plan commission recommendation discussion or decision and stuff? I just caught that and I
Oh, this is the
Yeah, we're-
committee recommendation.
Okay.
Can we move this to the front of the agenda since it's such a short one?
Yeah. We could.
I think for people, when I know we're gonna have,
You want to reorder that at the meeting, or do you want us?
I can do it at the meeting, that's fine. So because
Wild card.
we have the common practice, so that's good. Okay, just remind me of that. I want to make that amendment.
So I have a question about the preliminary plat, if you could go back to that.
Okay.
Please.
And yeah, we can take some administrative questions at this point.
Page 153,
Yes.
there it is. So there's 4 lots set up in this, and do each of them have buildable areas outside of sinkholes?
Yes, yes.
I'm looking at the second one down.
Okay,
Is-
yeah. So this area where my mouse is buildable. So everything that's not darker highlighted.
Okay, yeah. there we go.
You know, this is lower, but I believe it says either 5 or 8 acres of buildable, like, I'll get you a better.
Carol, that's such a large development.
It
The
is.
map is not gonna give you any kind of scale,
Yeah,
not visually anyway.
Typically, at the beginning of the packets for these subdivisions, we like to include a table. See if it's in this one, or, yeah, here you go. So we added lot 2, which is the one you were looking at, actually has 10.59 acres.
oh, good, thank you.
They all exceed.
Yeah, that's fine.
There was one thing, and it was just due to the fact that, Mr. Ayers was on vacation, but I just wanted to confirm that his line of sight issue was addressed. I know that Mr. Boardman did send an email saying he did update the plat, but I just would like confirmation from Mr. Ayers
Okay,
on this one about the line of sight issue with, I think it's the same lot you were referring to too. I
Okay.
closed my packet, so my notes, I have to dig back up.
that's fine. Make a note of that.
Well, you'll have to have a driveway, you'll have to have it. I mean, that'll be included in the packet, the driveway permit once the, what the.
They have right of way activity permits for all of these.
Yeah.
issues,
Okay, so doesn't that answer the question?
Mr. Ayers was on vacation and Todd said, hey, I submitted everything, so I just want him to confirm that
Okay.
everything he was looking for has been submitted.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you online, we did lose our quorum here, and I think we made it to the end of the packet.
We did.
But is there anything else that anyone had questions about, or is everyone okay to adjourn?
I'm fine, to adjourn.
Okay. All
No
right.
worries, all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jackie, I started saying, hey, there's a clip on the floor, and I thought,
Great job.